Good evening. This is Kaylin broadcasting for Happyland Gummy Bears, a NFT social club focused on the wellness and development of you, our community. Join us in pursuit of Happyland as we talk about topics relating to our physical and mental health, our wealth, and whatever else our community finds interesting. This is another episode of Happyland in Session. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Happyland in Session. My name is Caleb, and in this session, we are going to talk about why you should get started in crypto in 2022. I've been in the crypto space for about a year now, and my life has changed significantly. I went from not owning any crypto to becoming a crypto maximalist in basically no time at all. So just to go over some basics, this will not be a full comprehensive masterclass on crypto and all its use cases, right? That would take way too long. Instead, this is going to be a pitch for everyone listening to get on the rocket. To those of us that think that it's too hard to understand or to wrap our head around this magic internet money, what I want to do with you today is to dangle a fat carrot in front of you, right? And to give you the motivation to move yourself forward. Now, I'm not promising riches. I'm not a financial advisor by a long shot. I'm not telling you to do anything that you don't want to do. Rather, I'm just showing you what I have done and what I've gained in knowledge of the situation after taking a deep look around the cryptoverse, right? And joining me once again today is our resident learner and good friend, Lambro, who is also completely new to crypto. And so there he is. And his role here is to represent those without the knowledge and ask questions if I go over something that confuses him or I throw out any jargon that maybe he as a normal person might not understand and need a little extra explaining. That's really what he's here for. So welcome back to the show, Lambro. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me back. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so thanks for making it. So before we get started, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna go and copy some links out to our Discord groups and things like that. That way that people can kind of know where to find us. And you can hear me just fine, I'm sure. Here it is.
Yep.
Give me a second. Copy the link. I cannot wait till one day we can have an assistant or something like that to help me with this. Until then, here we are. Here.
We'll do the work ourselves.
Yeah, right. Do the work ourselves. And then I got a YouTube link somewhere. Give me 1 second. All right. That is perfect. Okay, I think that pretty much should cover it. Oh, look, that's the link right here. Perfect. Okay, now let's dive into the use cases. Sorry, one more link post necessary.
By the way, I love your sweater. That's a zero sweater, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's I found these a couple of good hoodies out at woot.com, right? And I just had to pick them up, at that point.
Glad you chose a good one too. That's a spicy one. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I actually have two different types that I'm really a big fan of, But anyway, all right, so let's get started. We'll dive into the use case of crypto. So today, Lampro, I really want to I've talked to you about crypto for a long time, and I still haven't gotten you to really dive in, right? I feel like I haven't really shown you kind of like the carrot that I was talking about, right? So today I'm hoping to show you kind of like the greatest hits of kind of what convinced me and what continued to amaze me, right? Every time I look into these things. And, I want to show them off to you. I want to show it off to everybody. And I want to encourage everybody in our community to basically take an interest. So this is going to be more of a marketing video, and the subsequent ones are going to be more technical, right? Last time we talked about NFTs, I got really technical and just getting a little feedback, before we put everyone through the research, right? Why they should sit down through the long and, strenuous, like learning the tech. Perhaps we should kind of show people the benefits first, right? And so that's really what this is about. So, all right. So we'll get started. And so I want to get started by kind of talking to you about why you should convert your hard-earned cash into crypto, right? I mean, after all, why trade money for nothing in return, right? Something that you can't even see or understand. So why not just keep it in cash, right? So just for everybody out there listening, Lambro and I are in the US, right? So if you're outside of the US, this might be just a little bit different for you. But I'm sure you can find some version of the truth of what I will be describing, because the monetary policies of our governments across the world are usually the same. Not the same, that way, but like they want to have a control over it, right? So in the US, we already have virtual money in the system, right? And this is a feature, that's not a bug. It's called fractional reserve banking. And that's a practice where a bank will hold a certain percentage of real money, right, in the bank for you to withdraw, right, and then the rest of it, right, the difference, they're allowed to go and take that and loan that to people, right? And every time they make a loan, they're basically creating money, right? That doesn't really exist. So what does that mean? And I know that might be sound a little confusing, right? So in practice, Lambro, if you went and you deposit $100 in a bank, right, and the typical normal rate of fractional reserve is, let's say, 10%. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that basically means that the bank will keep $10 in the bank in case someone like you or someone else wants to withdraw some money, and then they will lend out $90 of the $100 that you put in. But whenever they do that, right, the moment that they hand it out, they've just created more money because they've got the $90 on one hand that they gave to somebody else as a loan, right? And they've got the $100 that they owe you, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they've basically created $190 from the $90 that they put out. So that's really what fractional reserve banking is, right? And of course, you might be like, oh well, that's kind of normal. It's FDIC insured and everything like that, so don't worry, right? But
Yeah.
but still, the reason is that, like, once they create like a debit, right, like a debt, on the other side. So they give you $90, they give someone else $9, and then they create a debt on the other side, right? And then the problem with this practice is that you're trusting that that they would handle this correctly. And in my lifetime, I've already seen two financial crises, right? And during this whole time, with the collapse of like big institutions, and then they draw down so many things with them, right? Like most recently in China, the Evergrande, right, incident where this billion dollar company just decided that it can't pay its debts, right? And kind of drag down the entire, Chinese economy for a quick minute there, And so like the situations like these tend to happen when we do play dangerous games like this, right? With debt and, creating that money. So that's the first thing, is that, like, not really exactly sure I trust my government to safeguard my money, which is my economic life force, right? I spend my days slaving away instead of spending it with my family or spending with my friends for that very same money, right? That's my sacrifice. So I'm not too keen on keeping it, like that, especially when I'm already living through two financial crises, right? One through the Lehman Brothers subprime mortgage collapse, right? And now most recently the coronavirus collapse, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of understand that. You're living through that too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the other reason that I don't like cash is going to be inflation. So I know inflation is like a hot topic these days. I mean, how could it not, right? We are reaching levels like not seen in almost 40 years. But you know what? Let's not even talk about that. Let's not even talk about today for a sec. Let's just dial the time back, right, to when it was healthier, right? Let's not think about 7% for a second for an inflation, right? So,
Mm.
do you know the normal inflation rate? That is what the Fed really prefers,
What the
by any
Fed
chance?
prefers.
Yeah, do you happen to know?
I
I mean,
really
it's a
can't.
yes or
I
no
can't.
question. If you don't know, that's
I can't
fine.
put. I mean, I
Like
really can't put my finger on it, but I would say like
that's.
what, like 5%, right?
Oh, no, I mean, I hope not, honestly. So the actual answer is going to be somewhere along 2% is what is considered to be a healthy amount of inflation, right?
Mm-hmm.
The idea is that you really want people to spend their money, and you want to grow the economy, and so the Fed really prefers like a 2% inflation rate, right? So obviously 7% is way over that, right? But
Mm-hmm.
think about that for a second. It is normal and healthy for the masses, right? Everybody in the country to lose 2% of their money on a year-to-year basis, right? Like that's the status quo. That is the feature, right? That's not a bug. Okay. So that's normal. Okay. So you better, put enough money in the bank, right? Like you better
Right.
save that money, right? But just speaking of banks, I want to take a second here and check the rates, right? My parents, young to now, always like, you better save your money. You better save your money. It's the only way to get rich, right? Is if you save your money. So I really want to go and look at like what are the rates these days, right? Like what are the rates these days? So at this moment, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Let's go ahead and I will share, let's say this one. All right, that is one of my favorite gummy bears right there, right? So, all right, and I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna go and wait. Let's see, is this working? Yes, it is. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and go to like a bank of ours, like TD Bank, let's say, right? Like that's a bank that's popular around my areas, and it's a regional bank, and sorry, a national bank available across the U.S. And so I'm gonna go with the savings rate, right? So here we go. Tiered interest rates. That is perfect. So we were to open a bank account today in the state of Maine. Sure, why not? In Holton, Maine. I don't know. What is the rate that we're going to get? Let's see. So if I had, so according to this, if I had 1 cent up to $20,000, my rate would be a 0.01%. Okay.
1%.
So yeah, just think about that for a sec, right? So that is what you would get. So if a normal inflation of, let's say, 2%, you would be not happy right now, right?
No,
yeah,
not a single bit.
that does not look very good. All right, but you know what? Like, forget about that. Like let's go. We're in a crisis right now, right? Like let's give let's give these banks the benefit of the doubt, right? We're in a crisis. Let's go back to, let's say, interest rates. Sorry, like banking interest rates, right? In, let's say, 2019, right? Like let's see if we can find that, right? And then 5 accounts at the best yield in 2019. Okay, I like that. What are we looking at here? So let's see. Hey, look at that.
2%.
You can get, back in 2019, pre-pandemic, you could get a a savings rate of 2%. So just think about that for a second. So if you were to put your money in a savings account, I mean, that's not bad, right? But if you were to put money in your savings account, you would basically get as much as you put in, basically. So if the inflation at the time in 2019, I'm not going to look, I already looked this up, was 1.8%. So it's not that bad. You'd actually net a little bit, right? You net, like, let's say, let's even put this up. 2% is a little low. I've actually seen in another site that says it was like 2.5. So I'll give it a benefit of doubt. Let's say it's 2.5%, not just 2%, right? So that's a net gain of like 0.7%, right? So if you had $50,000 in the bank for the whole year, you'd earn a gigantic, after inflation, right? You'd earn a gigantic $350. Not bad, right? Like, you're at least positive, right, Lambro? Oh, wait, I'm so sorry. I kind of like kicked you off the stream for a second there. My bad. But yeah, what would you say? Like, not bad, right? $350 for a whole year, right?
That's right, yeah.
For $50,000, you get $350 in interest. How's that sound?
It doesn't sound terrible.
Great deal, right?
It
So
sound
yeah. So now with the rates today, right, we're looking at 0.01%, right? 0.01% with a 7% inflation, right? That would give you a negative 6.99%, right? So you put the same $50,000 in same $50,000 that was earning you the amazing $350 a year before, right? Now earns you a negative $3,495 a year. I don't know about you, Lambro. That sounds like a bad deal.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, right. So
So
if you left your money in the bank today, you would be losing. If you left 50 grand in the bank today at any bank across the U.S., you'd be losing $3,500 a year. Okay. So now, in terms of the stock market or crypto or money in the bank, let me ask you, like, for you personally, percentage-wise, I don't need to know the numbers. I don't need to know how much money is in your bank, but percentage-wise, how much of your money would you say is in the bank right now? Percentage,
I'd say like 50%.
50%. So 50% of your money is in the bank right now. How do you feel right now?
I feel okay.
Yeah, okay. You feel okay?
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, after learning this fact, like don't you feel like you might want to, I don't know, change something.
Do something else with that money is exactly.
Yeah, I'm just saying, So and then let me ask you this: for your parents, how much percentage do you think their money is in the bank?
A lot of it.
A lot is. Give me a percentage.
I'd say say probably like 70%.
So 70% of their life savings, right, is in the bank. So this is a lot of Americans right now, where we have a huge amount of money in the bank, right, and these, unfortunately, most normal people don't really think about that, right? They just work. I mean, you got you got bills to pay, you got things to do, right? So they just put the money in a bank and they're hoping it's safe, not realizing that they're actually losing money at this point, hand over fist, right? Through inflation. And that's really why that is a big deal. So don't get me wrong, cash is still king, right? Like you still need cash to pay the bills, buy your food, and have for emergencies, right? But above and beyond that, do you really need all of that cash? Like all of it in cash, right? Like I
Hmm.
don't know the answer for you, but it seems to me that doing nothing with your money and letting it sit around is a bad deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my first pitch for this is why, because a lot of people, they figured like, oh, I can be lazy, I can just stand here and do nothing, right? And this is my first like salvo to say I don't think you're right. I don't think you could sit around and do nothing, because sitting around doing nothing will actually lead you to be in worse off of a financial situation than if you had to do something. So at this point, the banks don't want your money. At this point, like everybody is forced to go out there and use their money for investments and hopefully to reach that 7% hurdle, right? So at the very least, you're not losing money year to year. Okay.
Mm.
So I want to take a look. So we already took a look at the options for regular traditional financial banks, right? They don't want your money. So now let's look at for a second crypto, right? So we're gonna go with the safest first, right? I want to introduce the safest first, and then we'll work our way up the risk chain, right? And
Hmm.
and this is the way that my parents chose because 'cause I forced them, but they're on the older side, you know what I mean? I'm pretty old myself, and so they don't exactly need to invest all of their standing retirement money in Bitcoin, right? And have the price be 60,000 one day, and the next month is 36,000, right? So like that might be a little scary for them, right? So I want to introduce to you the concept of a stable coin, right? And a crypto version. So what a stable coin is, it's a crypto version of a country's currency. So there's a USD stable coin, there's a Euro stable coin, an Australian dollar stable coin. You get it, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm talking about is changing your money into these stable coins, right? So what is a dollar is always going to be a dollar, right? And then putting that money into a crypto version of a bank, right? They're not technically banks, okay? So I don't want to use, they're not the same wording, okay? And none of them will say that they're banks, okay? So I want to be very clear. They're not banks.
Mm.
But for my purpose of trying to explain it to you, I'm just going to call them a bank because the idea is that you're going to deposit that money with them and you're going to get a higher rate. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, all right. So once again, I'm going to share my screen. So I'm going to show you a couple of different versions. So the first one I'm going to show is one of my favorites. And unfortunately, these apps are on my phone, so I took the liberty of making these videos beforehand, right? So that it's so that's ready for you. So this one is called Voyager. Is
Mm.
one of my favorites. I recommend this to a lot of my family members. And the interesting here is that you'll see I am looking at US stablecoin, right? And over here, you'll check out you see this annual interest rate right here?
Yep.
What does that read for you?
This means that if you invest at least $1, you get 9% of that back.
Right. So that there's actually a minimum of $100. So I hope you can
Minimum.
afford that.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, the idea here is that you're right. So this crypto company will give you 9%, right? Compare that to 0.01%. You
Oh,
know what I mean?
it
Like,
is extremely night and day.
right, exactly. And now I know a lot of my friends, they are, and a lot of people are in very restrictive areas. Like a lot of my friends are in New York, for example, and New York has a huge financial, lobby group, right? And so they can't actually use a lot of the financial tools, but one of them they can use is a company called Gemini, right? And so I want to see, show you that across the board. This is like across the board, these are the rates, right? So this is a Gemini dollar, which is their version of the stable coin. Can you see what the rate that they're giving?
8.05%.
Yeah, so 8%. So it's a little less than Voyager, right? But the idea here is that they're still at least beating the 7% inflation hike, right? I'm gonna go with the one more, okay? And this one is going to be Crypto.com, which
Mm.
has a lot of people heard about it through them renaming the Staples Center, the crypto stadium, right?
Yep.
And so if we go down here, right, and I scroll down a little bit, right, and then we're gonna go to USDC coin. What's the percentage you see here? I don't know. It's a little tiny.
12%.
12%. Okay. Now don't get me wrong. This 12% is only if you like do some special things. You have to stake a little bit of other things to get that 12%. So I'm
Mhm.
gonna turn that off right now, right? We're gonna turn that off so that you don't get the, what does that read?
Actually, I can read
I
as
know it's
well.
very tiny. All right, this is 10%.
10%.
I'm
That's
sorry about that.
10%.
It's a little
No,
tiny, you know.
that's okay.
So
No worries.
so basically, I think the proof is like in the pudding right here, right? Is is that you can actually get anywhere from 8 to 10%, right? So let me ask you, the choice is really hard, isn't it? Between 0.01 or 8 to 10%, right?
Not really.
Yeah, not really that hard. Okay, well, I didn't think it was that hard either, and neither was it very hard to my parents, right? And so honestly, this was my first reason to get into crypto. When I saw that my friends were making that much compared to what I was like, all my money was in the bank as well, right? And so when I saw that, I was like, I must be not doing this right. Like adulting is hard, but I must not be doing it right, right?
Right.
So that this is so that's why I introduced this to you first, because this is the main reason I got into crypto in the first place. Was it's a no-brainer. You know what I mean? When you look at the evidence that's placed in front of you, it really is a no-brainer, right? So these are great options for people who like convenience, right? Who hate figuring out technology, right? These are what we call on ramps for your money, and that really basically means like on ramps basically means that the app is connected to your bank account, right? You don't have to do much. You just take money from your bank account and you transport it, and then you buy a USDC stablecoin, and then boom, you're in, right? It's as easy as Robinhood, right? Robinhood is
Mhm.
also super easy to use, right? It just goes straight from your bank account, right? So if you want to stop there, if you want to stop at 8 to 10%, like I really can't blame you, Lambro. You know what I mean? You're done. That's it. You're done, and you're miles and kilometers, right, depending on where you are, ahead of where you were before you watched this session, right? So we went from -7% to at least a +2%, right, after inflation, right?
Mhm.
Which is even more than what we got pre-pandemic. Is more than what we got in 2019, right? 2019 we got 0%, right? Because it's 2% minus the 2% inflation rate, right?
Mhm.
You got zero in pre-pandemic, and even if you go, subtract 7% from that, you're still getting at least 2%, which is way more than what you would gotten in 2019. So basically, the idea here is that no matter how you look at it, right, the way that the crypto companies treat your money is way better than our traditional financial systems that treat our money today. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, so if you're good there, like if you're done, this is it. This is all you need to watch. Just go ahead, sign up for these programs, you're good to go, right? But for me, right, like I'm
Now,
willing to dive. Yeah, sorry, you have a question?
oh, no, it's all good. So, like, I do follow, or actually, I'm based off your recommendation, of course. So, I checked
Yeah.
out those three specific platforms for Gemini, for Voyager,
Sure.
and the Crypto.com app. I mean, it really much was a no-brainer. It was at least a little simple for me to understand because it's exactly as you said. Just like, this is no different than just like this type of exchange.
Mhm.
And I have been putting at least money in there, but very, very conservatively, just like almost like
Sure.
$100 here and there. But
Mhm.
point is, like, yeah, it has shown a pretty big difference.
Right. So, well, the idea here is that, just to give everyone else, obviously the different like platforms have different like terms and things like that, and I will go over this in a separate video, right? A separate, session. This is just, I wham, bam, check this out, why are you in? Get in, fool, type of deal, And
Yeah.
so, but yeah, I like, yeah, so, but yeah, I hear you. I'm glad that you have already checked that out, that you're already doing a little bit of that, and you don't have a lot of money in there, but I would heavily recommend that you put a little bit more in there, because that dollar USDC is never going to change in price. It's really no different. There are still risks, right? But again, this is not a session about risks. This is just a session about like why should you even care? Okay,
Mm.
so anyway, but yeah, but if you're done with that and you're good, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like if this is if this is as deep as you want to go, if this is all the time you have for, at least then now you're better off than you were before, right? So that makes me happy. But for me personally, right, I'm willing to dive deeper. I'm willing to mess around with the levers, right? Learn the tools of the trade. The thing about crypto is that the more that you invest in learning, right, the more you're willing to learn, the more you're able to earn. Yeah, like that rhyme. So I want to introduce you, to another protocol called Anchor Protocol, right? Which is where I actually put my money. So I don't put my money in these things that I showed you,
Mhm.
although they are very good and they're very easy, right? I put my money. So I guess let me put that screen back on. I put my money in something where we call it's Anchor Protocol, right? Um,
So I do have a quick
yeah,
question.
sure.
The apps themselves, like they're
Mhm.
really no different than like what we have to go through like exchanges throughout the world, right? We go to a cash exchange in a different country, and then to see like what the percentages would be, right? From that particular country, and we get the equivalent of that. So like the core of those apps, they're no different than exchanges.
They are exchanges, actually. Those
Yeah.
apps are exchanges, and if you're gonna ask that question, I guess I'll answer it. Like, I'm not gonna go through the risks, but what you're really doing is you're at least providing them your dollars. Just like when you put your money in a bank, you're providing a bank the ability to then like lend your money out, right?
Mm.
So here, in a way, like they need that money so they can trade it back and forth with other crypto, right?
Hmm.
So basically one-to-one trades, not like fake money trades.
Yeah.
But obviously different platforms will do it slightly differently. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
Yep.
So I want to introduce you where I put my stable coins. Okay, so this is Anchor Protocol. Can you read that rate here?
19.75%.
Yeah.
Pretty damn good number.
Yeah, 19.75. So that is way bigger than your point zero 0.01, right? Let's just take this.
Laughable.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So we just tell these traditional
Oh my
banks to
god.
take their 0.01% and shove it, right? Because at this point, I don't even have a savings account at this point. I have a checking account. Like, why bother? Like, I don't really need
Yeah.
the 0.01% at this point. You know what I mean? And to lose money after 7%, inflation rate, right? So this is where I put my money. Okay. So this is what I mean about crypto, right? Like, I didn't discover this until like this year. So before, all my money was locked up away 9%. I was pretty happy, and
Hmm.
then now the more you learn, the more you earn, right? So here I'm looking at 19.75%. So then I'm there. you
Yep.
don't have to ask me twice. You don't have to yank my chain. I'm pretty much there. Okay. So that's just something to, like, are we convinced yet? You know, like, are you convinced yet at this point?
So, yeah, simply put, like it's hard to not be convinced.
Right. But that's my point. That's why I decided I have to talk about this. We have to make a session about this. All right. I'm not done yet, just so you know. So this
Yes.
is this is this is just stable coins. Okay. Boring stable coins. All right. And it's enough to excite normal people, right? To take
Mm.
your finance into your own hands, right? Just talking about some boring coin that doesn't change in value. $1 is the $1. It's enough to excite most people, and that's the whole point of this stream, is to excite normal people into action, right? So obviously there are risks to everything I'm talking about. There is more to it. I'm not going to go through it. Like I said,
Mm.
that's a technical talk that I'm hoping to convince everyone watching that it's worth sitting down with us and listening it through in future sessions, right? Remember, I'm only showing you the big fat carrot in this session. Okay, this is not a how-to, but what are you missing out by not continue to take the time out to explore? Okay,
Mm.
what are you missing out on? So the next crypto idea I want to introduce is a concept called staking. Okay, so staking requires you to put up crypto for however long you want into a system, right? Again, a technical endeavor that I'm not gonna go into right now,
Mm.
right? But by putting money into this system, the network, right, the system itself will reward you with more of that crypto. So you've heard of mining cryptocurrencies before, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that really requires like a lot of hardware, electricity, right? You've heard all that, right? So that's like the mining of like the yesteryear. Okay, so the mining of 2022, right, or even 2021, honestly, and earlier before, right, is that we use coins to earn more coins, right? And so it's kind of like mining, but instead of using computer hardware, you're using your actual money to do it, right?
Mm.
And this is riskier, right, than what we were talking about before, simply because you're no longer holding stablecoin, right? We're trading your stable US dollars and for some real crypto now, right? The type with the scary mood swings, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so really, like, I'm not here trying to say, hey, just go pick any random meme coin, put your money in there, stake it, and then go ham. Like, that's not what I'm saying, right? But what if you truly believed in the product, right? Then it would kind of make a little bit of sense to maybe invest in a cryptocurrency, right?
Mm.
So today I want to introduce you one of my favorite staking cryptos, right? It's called Akash Networks. So Akash Network, what it is basically is it is a AWS provider, but decentralized. So are you aware of Amazon Web Services?
Hmm.
Yeah. So Amazon Web Services. Let's take a look at that for a sec. Okay. So Amazon web services, and let's go with down, right? I believe that if it's gone down a couple of times just this last month, right? And when there is an outage in AWS, like half the world shuts down. You can't go on Netflix, you can't check your email, you can't make your sale on like some kind of like whatever like network that you're using, like whether
Yeah.
it's like Shopify or something. You're like the whole world goes down, right? Or even when Google goes down, right? Google has their own Google. It's called Google Azure, right? Same
Hmm.
thing. You know what I mean? When Google goes down, like everything goes down, right? You can't do anything, right? So inherently that is kind of risky. And if you don't know anything about cloud infrastructure, by the way, a lot of the web these days are based on cloud infrastructure. There's only like 3, 4 big players around here, right? I can name them. Not here to bore you. But the idea is that there's only a few handful of suppliers. So if you really want cloud hosting, you can only go to a few certain people. That's what we call a monopoly. You know what I mean? And so what happens with monopolies, right? You end up paying a price. And the CEO of Akash, Greg Ansuri, he calls it the secret Amazon tax, right? That everybody pays, but nobody knows about, right? It's like when you pay your Netflix subscription, you're paying an Amazon tax. When you pay your Hulu subscription, you're paying an Amazon tax. So the idea here is because they can command those prices, right? And it's
Mm.
not worth it for anyone else to create that infrastructure, right? So what Akash plans on doing is basically use underutilized server space, right? So let's say you're Intuit, TurboTax, okay? You have data centers all over the world, right? And so the idea here is that during the season where you have tax season, right, which is happening right now, right? A lot of people are using TurboTax, right? So your servers are at 100% capacity because everybody's using it, right? It's Black Friday, right? Like everybody is on Walmart.com, Amazon.com, right? But what happens like the day after Black Friday, right? What happens the day after taxes are all done, right? Server utilizations go straight down to the gutter, right? But then do you fire the data center? Like, do you shut down the computers? Do you
Right.
fire the workers that are there? Do you stop the air conditioning? Do like, what do? You keep the servers running, right? But you just go, you know what? Doing business in the 2 months or whatever that I'm popular, pays for the rest of the year, right? No big deal. So what Akash ends up doing is that they tap into those systems, right? Like, hey, you've got a bunch of servers that are not active. Let me utilize that, and we're going to host applications on those servers, right? So again, really trying not to bore you here,
You
but
get.
the idea you understand what I'm trying to say, right?
I
So they're
do.
taking that
Yes. Yes.
unused things and they're decentralizing it, and so they're creating a network where we can have an internet that is not censorable. You can't. Oh, I don't like. I mean, don't get me wrong, right? Like, I'm not a big fan of white supremacists or things like that. But the idea is that to have your website shut down, like just like boom, you're not allowed to exist. To get banned from these things, right? It is this level of censorship that can be damaging, right? To freedom, things like that. But that's not what this talks about. The whole point is that with Akash, you can't do that, right? Because that network is split amongst like everywhere around the world. So if you shut down one, they would just pop up in another one, right? They'll just rehost it somewhere else. So
Hmm.
does that make sense? So for
Yes.
me, in the future of what I believe is going to be a decentralized world, right? Having a decentralized web cloud infrastructure is probably very important, right? So for me, I'm super bullish. I love Akash, and I think it's gonna do great, and because of that, I don't actually mind investing a lot of my real money into that cryptocurrency, right? So what a lot of people, when they get into crypto, they only know Bitcoin, they only know Ethereum, except they're like, oh, Bitcoin, that's like kind of money, right? Or gold, Ethereum. I don't know what that is. You know what I mean? Like Ethereum, that's like just another Bitcoin, right? But it's so far from the truth, and they kind of look at it's scary, right? They look at all these cryptocurrencies and they all look the same to you, right? Like if you go down the list, right? You go down the list of cryptocurrencies and you actually don't know, you don't know what they are, and so like it's just like what's Luna? I don't know, like what is this? What is that? And you
Yeah.
get this whole list, like what is what is Tether, what is Cardano, what is Solana, right? Like you have no idea. Like this is like, but what if one day when you learned enough, you can read that off. What if it said Microsoft, Google, Tesla?
Mm.
You know what I
Pretty
mean?
much.
Then you'd be like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I know that. I definitely buy that. You know what I mean? So that's the idea here is that people don't realize that these are companies on their own right, right? These are networks. These are getting too technical again, but the idea is that like they have different use cases, right? And every crypto is different. So if you took the time to actually learn like specific ones, you might actually find one that you actually believe in and that you wouldn't actually mind, dedicating a portion of your money to that crypto. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
So I want to then go to show you what the so yeah, oops, yeah, mom's account. So here's Akash, right? So my mom does not have a lot of Akash, as you can see. So let's just look at the example. I'm gonna do the staking reward, right? So right here, we're gonna go do the staking for Akash, right? And I want the idea here is that I want to see what the rate is, right? Where can I find that? I think it's actually on the wallet itself. So it's right here. Okay, so you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So basically now we go from 20%, we go from 0.01% to 9% to now 20% to
30,
now 35%, right?
30,
Let's say 34%. Okay,
35%.
and this is just this one crypto, right? Like another one that I'm super bullish in is called Osmosis, right? It stakes for 88%. Okay. So it depends on what crypto you look for, right? Obviously, usually it's like the more risky it is, the higher the percentage, right? Because they want you to keep your money in there. I would
Mm,
love to talk to you about what staking actually means, but once again, we're not really doing that type of technical talk today. That
mm.
would take way too long. But you get it. We're talking about 80%, right? 88% APY rates, right? So you tell me, right? So staking requires you to do the research, right? To like your investment. It's no different than buying your favorite stock and doing similar research, right? In fact, once you get into the crypto world, you will find a lot of amazing companies that you never knew existed. And once you dive in, you may actually find them to be worth your liquidity than traditional stocks, right? Both in financial gains, because you're still early, and also because of the actual product market fit to what you believe in, right? I find a lot of crypto companies that kind of share my values, right? Because we're decentralized, we're not like having all of the power, being centralized into one like organization, right? And hoping that Bezos, isn't gonna like mess with us in some way, right? Because he holds so much power, right? So that's the current idea of it. Do you have any questions regarding that?
So one thing for sure is like that's a high interest rate, right? So just like that's a good amount that they're really willing to give back to you. And the
Sure.
and the biggest thing I guess that really comes to mind is like, so how can they really offer up that risk?
Like you
And
mean how can they offer up that percentage?
yeah,
Okay, so now again you're asking me to get a little technical, right? So
I
I'm
can't
gonna
help.
try.
I
I'm,
can't
I'm,
help
I'm
it,
gonna try to
unfortunately.
be as like succinct as possible without
Okay.
getting too deep into it. So the idea is that they're paying you to put up the collateral, right, in order to uphold the network. So
Hmm.
I didn't really explain how cryptocurrencies work. I didn't explain how blockchain technologies work. But the idea is that you have multiple computers that are hosting, and they're all like basically they're sharing this distributed ledger, right, or distributed database, right? And so the idea here is that when it's like proof of work mining, when like back in the Bitcoin days, you have computers that would fight to solve the algorithm, right? In the future in staking, what you're doing is that you're taking lottery turns, and based on how much money you have staked into a pool will give you the power to dictate, like changes and give you voting power, right? So the bigger vote block you have, the bigger voting block you have, and you can vote on changes to the network. But the idea is that they'll all take turns in a round robin way to mint the next coin, right? And they're just paying you for doing that for them, paying you for giving them that power so that they can basically produce the next coin,
Hmm.
right? So I hope like again, this is like a little bit more complicated than that, but that's the easiest way that I can explain it to you. So for example, Akash has a when I first invested in Akash, the rate was like 55%. So it's gone down over time. And the reason why it's gone down is because a lot of people are now investing in it, right? So like a lot more people are putting their coins up to stake it because they believe in Akash too. And so Akash has an algorithm that like the more coins that are like taken out, the higher that rate becomes. And then the more coins that, which incentivizes you to put like, oh my God, 56%, I'm gonna put
Hmm.
some extra. And that's what brings it down, right? And now at 34%, you might be like, maybe I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? Like I didn't explain Akash entirely. There is a use for AKT outside of staking. Like if you were to use a service, like if you wanted to host your website or host your app on the cloud, service provided by Akash, you would need AKT in order to actually do that. You know what I mean? So you can't exactly stake all of your AKT and not have any to actually spend at the store. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
there's an actual use case for that. So it's not like we want 100% of AKT staked away, never to be touched, right? We actually need liquid AKT in order to actually run the business. Okay. So does that kind of explain a little bit about it? You know?
Yes. Yeah.
So
I
so
get
they
it.
give these they basically give these rewards, you know, because for you to support the network and make it steady and make it everlasting, right? It's just like, why did he give you free Bitcoin? You know, like if you know, why did they give you free Bitcoin? Because they want you to have your computers up. Because if I just have a Bitcoin miner in my basement, which I do, you know, that means that if World War III happens and or not even World War III, if Russia decides that we're going to shut down all the Bitcoin miners, if China decides we're going to shut down all the Bitcoin miners, well, you know what? You know, Caleb's got one downstairs in the basement, so I've got a copy of the entire network in my basement. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? So you're gonna have to come and shut me down too, right? And then you're gonna have to shut, you know, everybody, you know, in Texas down and all the way around the world, right? That makes this very hard. You know, that's why it's very hard for governments to really ban, you know, like these cryptocurrencies because they're endemic, they're everywhere, right?
Hmm.
And so the only way to get it everywhere is to be, you know, paying people to do that, right? Otherwise, you have no motivation to basically set this up and make sure that the network is secure. Does that make sense? So this
Yes.
reward is paying you for securing the network. Got it?
Yes.
All right. Cool. All right. Back on to what was I saying? Okay. So yeah. So that's staking, right? And that's fun and all, right? So now I want to give you one last carrot that I want to dangle in front of
All right.
everybody today. Okay, and that is going to be in the realm of DeFi. So I guess I should hide this for a second and talk about DeFi for a second. So what is DeFi? So DeFi stands for decentralized finance, right? And it uses blockchain technology to remove third parties in financial transactions, right? This has many different implications and many use cases, but I'm going to highlight one use case today, okay? And that is what we call the automated market makers, okay? So AMM for short, right? So in a quick nutshell, right, a market maker, right? Because that's a term that you might not be familiar with, right? Do you know what a market maker is?
I don't know.
Okay, so a market maker is an individual or more likely a firm of an exchange that buys and sells securities for its own account, right? So market makers provide the market with liquidity, right? So liquidity is basically depends on what it is, right? We're talking about stocks, then liquidity is stocks, basically, right? If we're talking about crypto, liquidity is crypto. We're talking about cash, liquidity is cash, right? So it just depends on what you're talking about, right? So it provides the market with that liquidity while profiting from the difference in the bid and ask price, like the bid and ask spread. So
Hmm.
the bid is like, you know, if I were to sell something, right, you would basically give me a bid and tell me how much you want to buy it for. Does that make sense? And then if
Yes.
I was a seller, then I would have an ask. I'm going to ask you to give me this much before I give it to you, right? And so in a normal like auction house, right, bidders are like, I'll pay 10 cents, and sellers are like, I'm selling it at 12 cents, right? And so there's going to be sometimes going to be a spread. What if like, you know, what if it like inverses, you know? And so the idea that they do just skim the top, basically, they just take both. They, you know, they're standing with it and say, oh, you're buying for 10 cents, sure, I'll give it to you. Oh, you're gonna sell it for 12 cents, sure, I'll give it to you, right? And so on and so forth. I think I like inverse those two, but you understand what I'm saying. So there's a little bit of
Yes.
profit to be made in between that, you know. And so the easiest way to wrap your head around it is actually with something that you probably are familiar with, Robinhood, right? Robinhood is very popular. And do you have Robinhood by any chance?
I do not know.
They do not. Okay, but you're aware of what that is, right?
Yes.
So Robinhood is a what? A stockbroker?
Trading
What
pro
is?
a
Yeah,
trading
there
platform.
you go. It's a trading platform. So Robinhood doesn't actually own any of the stocks that they sell and buy from you. Are you aware of that? They don't own the
Yes.
stock.
That's
So
right.
that stock is provided by market makers, right? And if you're following the whole like GMC, like the GameStop, and the AMC, GMC. Oh my God, that's like a nutritional company. If you're following like the GameStop, you know, the phenomenon that happened last year, right? The
Yes.
Citadel was in like the big picture, like people were
A
talking about
giant
Citadel.
squeeze.
Yeah, sure. The big short squeeze. Yeah, but the idea is that they talk about Citadel a lot, right? Citadel is a market maker. Citadel is, you know, the name is right. Citadel holds a lot of stocks, right? And they lend it out to Robinhood to do the trading, and then they pocket the difference, right? They front run you, and then they pocket the difference. And so that's the money that's how Citadel makes money, right? In DeFi, I just told you we get rid of the middleman, right? And you and me, we're the market makers, right? You know that meme that says, "Hey, look, like
Yeah.
we're the market. Look, we're the market makers now." You know what I mean? And so in DeFi, we can buy our crypto, and we put that crypto up just like they put up the stock, right? And for a crypto version of Robinhood, right? And we can buy and sell, right? But instead of the fees going to like Citadel, it goes to people like you and me. Does that make sense?
Mm.
So rather than Robinhood in this case, in our case, the Robinhood, the automatic market maker will pay you to lend them your crypto. Does
Yeah.
that make sense? So
Yes.
right now I'm gonna check out. So let's bring my screen back on, and I'm gonna check out my favorite market maker, automatic market maker called Osmosis. Okay. So Osmosis is just one of many, right? The more popular one on this one's on a Cosmo network. Not that that matters, but the more popular one, that people might have heard of, if you looked into crypto at all, is probably Uniswap is another automatic market maker. I
Mm.
like Osmo, and I have a lot of reasons why I do. I'm not going to go into it today, but I'm sure I'll get you interested enough where you'd want me to explain this in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's just go here. We can go to the pools, right? So this is the price of Osmo right now. So the price is $7.84. Okay, and that's important. I'll give it to you a reason later. Okay, and then you look at these pools, right? So let's look at the pools. A little laggy. Oops. All right. So I want you to look at the percentage rates, right? Because that's what's important, right? So the rates, right?
High. Very high.
90%, 60%, 52%. These are actually very low, because then if you go down a little bit more, you can actually get to the point where they're at like,
Over
114%.
140% for the
Yep.
physical. So my question is, so at least in this the Osmosis platform, what do the pools represent?
So the pools represent the trading. So what is a market maker, right? When I tell you, what is Robinhood? Robinhood is a buy sell trading platform. You said it, right? So over here, the main business that Osmosis does is a trading platform. I have some Atom and I want to trade it for some AKT, or
Hmm.
I have a lot of AKT and I want to trade it for some Atom, or I want to trade it for some other crow. So now
Hmm.
again, if you're not into crypto, then all of these are just random names. These might as well be any random stuff. But imagine you could be like, all right, I have a share of Microsoft and I want to trade it for a share of Tesla.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that's what this is. We're trading shares, but in this case it's crypto coins, right? But
Hmm.
imagine you could do that, and because that's really what it is in Robinhood, right? You basically say, I have a Microsoft share and I'm going to trade it for money, right? And then I'm going to take that money and then I'm going to buy a Tesla share, right? So that's what they're doing. They're trading back and forth, right? And every time Robinhood doesn't take any fees, but then like Citadel takes the fees and then they pay Robinhood, right? So
Hmm.
so in this case, you can see that the fees are here, right? It tells you the swap fee, right? So swap fee is at 0.3%. So I mean, I think that's a fair price to pay, right? And they don't have to charge that much simply because it's automated. This thing is a computer program that just runs itself. You know what I'm saying? There are no humans here. There is no permission. You're not asking anybody. No one's gonna cancel your order or do anything like that. And so this is the main business of Osmosis, right? But in order for them to trade AKT, for DVPN, right? Somebody has to put that AKT into the system. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's what these stands for. So for me personally, right? I'm in like here's one of my favorite pools. Okay, I like this pool because you earn 120%. Which I like. That's a nice number.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so the idea here is that you have this uh, APR rate, right? And so what that means is that you buy CMDX and you buy Osmo, right? And so the idea here is that now anyone can trade Osmo for CMDX because we have a pool here that has over $22 million in it, right? So with this amount of money in it, people are trading back and forth for that. That basically allows this to happen. Osmo can trade into CMDX. Does that make sense? And every time you do this, that 3% goes to pay off that pool. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So that's what that pools represent, you know. But again,
Okay.
we're getting a little technical here, only because you asked, right? And that's why you're here. You're here to ask questions, right?
I love the technical stuff. I can't help
Yeah,
it
yeah, and that's
sometimes.
fine. And we will go over that. But you might like check out Hua Hua. Yeah.
194%.
So this, by the way, is a meme coin. So
Jeez.
I'm not pushing that, right? I don't really like meme coins too much, you know. So I'm not pushing that. As you can see, my mom has like $150 in it, right? So it's not like I'm not
She's
heavily.
committed.
Yeah, she's not heavily invested in it, right? So I hope she doesn't mind me showing her portfolio, right?
Mm.
Like, but yeah, but you understand what I'm saying, you know. So that's what these pools represent. So we're looking at some, you know, enormous, you know, like interest rates here. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, all right. Anyway, so I don't know. Getting back into it, you know, we're kind of getting to the end of our hour here, so I don't want to push you over. So, in a quick, so basically, let's say, you get rid of the middleman, and now we keep the money, right? And so that is really, you know, the main thing of it is that it benefits us instead of, let's say, big institutions, right? So what do you think? Yeah, like now I'm pretty much done. Like this was the last thing I wanted to show you. You know what I mean? Like what are your thoughts on it? You know, at this point after being introduced this way. Like I know I've talked to you about crypto before. You know, like just casually. You know, this was a very formal introduction of like this is why you should do it. You know, like did it work?
I mean, let's be honest. Like like you jot the points down pretty clearly, right? It's like so in our day and age, there's a lot of people that just don't understand like how much interest they're actually getting from real banks. But this, like, those are really good numbers.
Mhm.
And but it's like it may appear to be scary, of course.
Yeah, of course. You know, it's always scary. Whatever like you don't know, right? But like the more you work on it, the more you basically, you know, it gets a lot less scarier over time. You know?
Hmm. So, oh, I think the audio cut off a little bit here.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry. You were
okay,
saying.
there you
Sorry.
go.
Go ahead.
Yes,
Yeah.
no, no worries, all good. But again, back to your point then. Like this is a perfect introduction to like alleviate all of that kind of fear. Just more like this is a great potential, absolutely.
Yeah. So in conclusion, right? In conclusion, what I showed you, what I showed everybody here today, right? It's just what I'm it's just what I'm into, right? It doesn't even go into the actual amazing projects that are out there being built every day by amazing people, right? The idea of blockchain technologies running our future is a very interesting, like it's an interesting idea to me, you know, and I'm pretty bullish on it, right? And of course, it doesn't come without its flaws and growing pains, right? Like, you know, but I'm still bullish that we're going to overcome these hurdles, right? Like if you actually learn about the history of cryptocurrencies, right, and the history of the bull markets, right, you can find heavy differences between a bull market in, like, let's say the first bull market was like 2012, you know, and then it was 2017, and then most recently 2020, right? The technology, the use cases, you know, and the ecosystems, right, that has grown and developed, you know, like between each of the years, it literally it's been growing and developing like it's nobody's business, you know?
That's right.
Yeah, and that, by the way, is decentralization joke. You get it? Nobody's business because like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, so I mean, as my own crypto mentor, right? Like I have a crypto mentor, and as he would basically say is that these rates they're not going to last forever. As more and more people adopt crypto technology, right? And given what I've shown you today, it's not too far fetched to believe more people are going to get in, right? These almost unbelievable APYs that I've shown you today, they're gonna grow a little slimmer and
Mhm.
slimmer and slimmer. You know, especially as more institutions pile in, right? If you actually do a search about DeFi and like institutions, like, dude, institutions is like super interested in DeFi right now, right? Because why are you making slim money when you can make money like this, right? So here's my goal. My goal is to get as much of the little guys in before the whales because life's already unfair. You know, like this is
Yes.
the great equalizer. Okay, and I plan on continuing my own personal crypto journey and squeezing the most out of being early, squeezing the most out of being a pioneer, out of being here first. Okay, and
Mm.
I think my mentor, I think he put it best. Okay, he said this. He said, listen, you know, Caleb, you might have missed the Bitcoin rocket, right? The Bitcoin rocket to the moon, right? I can't afford, you know, a whole Bitcoin, 3 Bitcoins. You know what I mean? Like you might have missed that Bitcoin rocket to the moon, right? I didn't buy the BTC for $1. Okay, I'm buying it for like 36,000 now, right? That's today's price, right? So like way different from $1, right? So the current rockets might not be as big. You know, they may be a little dinky. You know, but the thing is that they're still leaving. and they're leaving soon, right? And anything to get us off the ground is considered a success. And that's really what I want. I want all of you, to come with me on this spacewalk. So are you in?
Yes. Yes.
All right. All right.
That
Well, good.
carrot is mine.
Yeah, right. Like seriously, So, but yeah, like I'm glad you're here today. I'm glad you got to see this. But everybody, like that's my show for today, right? Like that's everything I got. So the next time that we cover crypto, it's gonna be on basically we're gonna actually get it started into the meat and grittiness of things, right? We're gonna run through exactly how to get started with these things that I discussed today. And we're going to dive deeper into the risks that we take when we do that I did not explore today. So our next session, so that's really what our next crypto session is going to be. So the very next actual Happyland session is actually going to be about physical wellness again with Coach Enrico back on the show to talk more about the
All
myth of
right.
motivation. Yeah, he's
Yes.
great. So, but yeah, honestly, so glad to have you, and really happy that you made it. Any last parting words or questions or anything like that?
I want to see more of you.
Well, we'll be here. Okay. So at the very least, we'll have you on next time, and we're going to dive basically into the deep end of the pool, so happy to have you here. Thank you for taking the time, and we'll see you next time. Okay.
It was awesome. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Can't wait
All
to
right.
be back.
Have a good day, everybody. See you
All
next
right.
time.
Later, guys.
Bye-bye.
Later, world.
We hope you've enjoyed this session of Happyland. If you're interested in becoming a part of our community, head out to our website, happylandgummybears.com, to learn more. See you next time Happyland is in session. It's hibernation time for this gummy bear. All right.
Oh, ready.
How was that?
How was I? Was I too off-putting or just like weird?
No.
And again, I don't know.
There's
It's
no
like
such
the whole
thing.